Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at GrustasBrady on X. You can follow me there. And today I'll be going over the biggest talking points from the first practice of the 2025 season. And stick around until later in the show where we'll continue our roster ranking series and talk about player number 49 on the 49ers. Before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into it. Now, just to preface, I was not at training camp. I do not live close enough to Santa Clara to make the trip, so I'm just going to do my best to compile all the most relevant and best tidbits and notes from, content creators and beat writers from around the internet. Also, I am wearing my Joe Montana jersey to celebrate the start of a new season. I always consider training camp just officially the start of a new season. We've officially made it. We're out of the offseason. And we're here. We're into the summer. We're ready to start looking ahead. I am so excited. Just a couple of housekeeping notes that we heard about this first day. Padded practices are not going to begin until Monday. So most of what you hear until then, you can take with a bit of a grain of salt, right? At least when it comes to who's playing well versus who's not playing well. It's so hard to tell without the pads on. You get such a boost with those pads, looking at pretty much every position. I mean, the trenches, especially the linebackers and safeties, can hit better. You get to see the running backs' vision a little bit better. Wide receivers and corners can be more physical in their matchups. Just across the board, the padded practices are a whole lot more useful than these ones. But that doesn't mean we can't learn a thing or two from these practices. Also, Wednesday's practice was just over an hour, which is shorter than most practices are going to be. That's just to ease the team in, get everybody ready, get everybody acclimated for the new year. Now, we do have some good news and some bad news immediately, especially when it comes to the offense. The good news is that Jauan Jennings is practicing fully and was leading all wide receivers in drills today despite his contract dispute with the team. Now, we heard a couple of days ago from Kyle Shanahan that Jauan did not officially request a trade, but we all know that he'd like a new deal, right? There is some contract discussion going on, and the way that he's trying to earn that deal is by showing up to practice and balling out, which he did on Wednesday. He was one of the team's most productive wide receivers, was making tons of plays with the first team offense, and he led all wide receiver drills. He was the first one up in every single individual drill, and that really goes to show that Jennings is taking a big leadership role this summer. The bad news, however, with the offense and specifically with the wide receivers is that Jacob Cowing pulled his hamstring early on in practice and is likely going to miss some time because of that. I'm devastated. My breakout candidate, my guy, Jacob Cowing, already with a setback, hoping he gets healthy soon. Kyle Shanahan did not give us a timeline about exactly how much time Jacob Cowing would miss, but he did give a timeline for Ricky Pearsall, saying that he would be surprised if Ricky wasn't practicing with the team by Sunday. Ricky had been practicing away from the facility for most of the summer, so now that he's back, they'll be testing his top speeds and testing his conditioning leading up to Sunday just to make sure he's at 100% before they throw him into those practices. On Wednesday, Ricky worked out on a side field as well as Ben Barch. Now, Ben Barch injured his quad away from the team. He did a similar thing to Ricky Pearsall. He was practicing on his own away from the team, trying to stay in shape, hurt his quad, but he seemed to be doing some pretty extensive workouts on the side field on Wednesday. So ideally, that means he's pretty close to a return. We'll see. Got to keep an eye on it going forward. We did not get a timeline for Ben Barch's return. In Barch's place, Nick Zakelj took the first team reps at left guard. Also, some key veterans like Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey were mostly just doing individual drills today as part of their load management programs this summer. Very normal stuff. It's all scheduled. They could go if they wanted to. I'm sure they want to. If the team wanted them to, I should say. But today, they did not. So we saw Spencer Burford take first team reps at left tackle. Now, that is huge for Burford, considering he's played guard pretty much his entire career, making the switch over to tackle this offseason, and he's competing with guys like Austin Pleasance and Andre Dillard for that primary swing tackle backup position. Looks like Burford's going to get the first shot at earning that role here as he took the first team left tackle reps on Wednesday. Now back to talking about the receivers. Jordan Watkins apparently was fitting right in, according to Brad Graham. Shout out to Brad, does great 49ers content. Apparently, both Watkins and fellow rookie Jordan James looked the part in their first day of NFL training camp and really did not have those rookie jitters that you may expect. Brad also shouted out Jawan Jennings and Demarcus Robinson, who are likely going to be the veteran leaders of the wide receiver room for the duration of the summer and maybe into the season until Ayuk returns. Now let's move on over to the defensive side of the ball. Nick Bosa, as we mentioned, sat out team periods. They only did individual drills, right? Him and McCaffrey and Trent. So the starting defensive unit looked like this, according to ESPN's 49ers reporter Nick Wagner. Nick Wagner also does some great training camp recaps, by the way. If you want to follow him on X, he's a great follow, one of my main sources for this sort of content. According to Wagner, this was the first team defensive unit, keeping in mind that Nick Bosa sat out of team drills for the most part. Mykel Williams, Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott, and Sam Aquanu were the first team D-line. Fred Warner, Luke Gifford, and D. Winters played at linebacker. Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green played corner, and Jason Pinnock and Jair Brown were the first team safeties. Now, a couple takeaways from that. Mykel Williams standing out enough to earn some first-team reps. Not a surprise to me. Hopefully not a surprise to you guys either. We all know Mykel is pretty darn good at football. Mykel also slid inside during their pass rush package, which featured Mykel on the inside next to Nick Bosa and Kalia Davis and Bryce Huff on the other edge. Good for Kalia Davis, not who I expected to be that primary pass rush defensive tackle, but, he's earning some reps there. And man, Bosa, Mykel, and Bryce Huff rushing the quarterback at the same time, whoo, scary. I am excited about this improved defensive line. Now, the defensive tackle pecking order with Elliott and Givens as the first team starters the other day, that seems to be about what I expected to start, but I'm pretty curious to see when Alfred Collins is going to slide in and take over one of those spots. Collins did practice today. He was practicing with the second team unit, and I wonder how long it'll take. I wonder if it'll take until joint practices, maybe until preseason, because I do think it's pretty inevitable that once Collins gets those first team reps, probably not giving them back. Luke Gifford got the first shot at the linebacker, 2 reps playing next to Fred Warner. Pretty notable. Not what I expected. Shout out to Luke Gifford. Started over D. Winters, but they did kind of work in as the practice sort of went along. And Winters made a pretty nice play today. He got an interception off of Brock Purdy. Sort of jumped the slant for tight end Luke Farrell. Grabbed a pick off of Purdy. Real nice play from Winters. If the 49ers have multiple linebackers that they feel good about starting, besides Fred Warner, obviously. I mean, you got to talk about Luke Gifford, D. Winters, maybe Nick Martin really comes along. If they've got all those guys, you got to kind of wonder if they end up maybe trading one of those guys at the roster cut down period. Maybe for a draft pick, maybe for a safety, maybe an offensive lineman. Looking around the league, teams like the Falcons and Jaguars could definitely potentially be in the market for a linebacker. Back to training camp, though. Back to the focus on the 49ers. The cornerbacks, not really surprised, right? Renardo Green, Diamador Lenore, those are going to be the starters. But I want to look at nickel cornerback, where Trey Brown got the first team reps ahead of Upton Stout on Wednesday. Now, Stout did get some reps with the first team defense, but it was all in like 4 cornerback formations and packages and things like that. Trey Brown was definitely the lead nickel corner on Wednesday. And it looks like my prediction is correct that Jason Pinnock is going to have all the opportunity in the world to take over that starting safety spot. Pinnock also got a pick today off of Purdy. There was kind of this weird lame duck throw that may have been tipped at the line, maybe not, but it kind of fluttered in the air. Apparently, Pinnock dove for the ball, secured the interception. Sounded like a pretty sweet play, so shout out to Jason Pinnock. And of course, after practice started to wrap up, Jake Moody and Greg Joseph took the field and kicked off, pun intended, this year's offseason kicking competition. Now, both Moody and Joseph went 4 for 4 on their kicks, and the pressure continues to mount. Who's going to be the first kicker to miss? Is either of them going to miss like a real short one, or will it be all 50-plus yard misses? I'm very excited to see. And just like the rest of us fans, Nick Bosa is tuned into the kicker competition. He mentioned that in his press conference that he's pretty tuned in and he's excited to watch. So that's all I've got for the Wednesday training camp practice. There's going to be another practice today on Thursday when you're seeing this video, and I will be back on Friday with the recap. So subscribe down below to stay locked in on all the latest from 49ers training camp. Now, of course, camp has begun, but we're back with the roster ranking series. Today's group of guys is mostly made up of players who I think should make the 53-man roster, but are definitely fighting for playing time and opportunities on Sundays. Our first player today is the 49th best player on the 49ers. It's tight end Jake Tonjes. Tonjes has been just a reserve so far in his career. He's a fun move blocker. He's an athletic guy who can play a little fullback, play a little bit in line, but he has one target in his 3-year NFL career, and it wasn't even in San Francisco. Tonjes made the 53-man roster last year, and he played in 16 games, but he just has not broken through in the passing game at all. 16 games played, 0 targets for Jake Tonjes last year. Truly just a blocking specialist at this point in his career. Fun fact about Tonjes, he's actually got more career tackles than targets. He had 2 tackles this past year for the Niners, and as I mentioned, just the 1 career target. Hopefully for Tonjes, though, that changes, and we see him take over that tight end 3 job and really carve out a little bit of a role in the passing game. At number 48, it's going to be cornerback Darrell Luter Jr. Now, Luter was a 5th-round pick in 2023, and it's been a depth cornerback / special teamer for 2 years. Now, unfortunately, Luter's career highlight so far is causing the Ray McCloud muffed punt in the 2023 Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs. Yikes. But I did like Luter coming out as sort of a lengthy press man cornerback. And if he's able to take a 3rd-year leap under Robert Saleh, I could definitely see him becoming the team's 4th cornerback for the long haul, which is, certainly a pretty valuable depth position to have. Coming in at 47 is safety Jair Brown, another defensive back taken in that 2023 draft class. Brown was the first rookie taken in that 2023 draft for the Niners, going in the 3rd round. He had a fairly promising rookie season. He showed off the ball hawk mentality that he had in college. And in limited snaps, only 5 starts, Brown had 2 picks and 4 pass deflections. Unfortunately, he was shuffled in and out of the lineup in favor of guys like Tayshaun Gibson and Logan Ryan, especially as we got later into the season and the playoffs. And last year was a huge disappointment for Jair. He looked lost in coverage. He could not tackle. It was, frankly, a disaster. The big hope for Jair's career is that Robert Saleh is now in town. Brown played decent under a decent defensive coordinator in Steve Wilkes, right? And then he played bad under a bad defensive coordinator in Nick Sorensen. So in an ideal world, now that we've got a great defensive coordinator in Robert Saleh, Jair Brown will just play great. We'll see if that theory comes true. Jair's got the inside track at the starting safety spot, so we'll track that that position over the course of the summer, and we'll see how Brown does. At 46, I'm going with yet another defensive back. This is the free agent addition, Siran Neal. Now, Neal doesn't play a whole lot of defense these days as he enters his age 30 season. He hasn't played even 100 defensive snaps since 2021. He's been a special teams specialist, if you will, and one of the better gunners in the NFL. This was a Brant Boyer ad for sure. Boyer has gotten to see him up close and personal for years as Neal played for division rivals Buffalo and Miami while Boyer was with the Jets. And with George Odom out the door, it seems to me like Neal will have the inside track to take his place on special teams. Number 45 is the newest 49er. It's wide receiver Equanimeous St. Brown. Like I mentioned the other day, St. Brown is a massive target with pretty good speed. He's 6'5", 214 pounds, and ran a 4.48 second 40-yard dash. 40-yard. He is a height, weight, speed, low usage, deep threat role player, and he's a willing blocker, right? By all means, I think he'll have a decent chance to make the team. But the big question, of course, is going to be the health of the other receivers on the roster. St. Brown is going to have to really impress if he's going to make a serious impact for this team, and I think his ceiling is probably capped at a role player at most. At 44, I'm going with a different wide receiver. It's rookie Jordan Watkins. Now, I like Watkins a lot, I'll be honest. People kind of, pegged this pick as a reach on draft day, and I get it. Not a ton of people did a ton of scouting on Jordan Watkins. He was not the most highly touted rookie wide receiver on his team. He didn't look very big on tape, but he measured in at 5'11", 196 pounds, so he is not small. I think he could be a steal for this team. He got better every single year he played at Ole Miss. He went over 900 yards, and he led Ole Miss with 12 touchdowns last year. Watkins has a sweet mentality, and he's a willing run blocker. He's moved all over the formation in college, including lining up in the backfield as a running back occasionally. And oh, by the way, he ran his 40-yard dash in 4.37 seconds, so he's a burner as well. Watkins is a sick athlete. He's got a good frame, he's got good versatility, he's got a good mentality, and he's got good technique as a route runner. I really have high hopes for Jordan Watkins. You guys better watch out because he is coming. Now, number 43 is linebacker Tatum Bethune, the former 7th-round pick from Florida State. Bethune earned a spot on the roster his rookie year, and I think his development is going to continue this year. There's plenty of snaps available, and I think Bethune could legitimately play for this team as probably their strong side linebacker. He's going to have to compete with guys like Luke Gifford and Nick Martin and potentially D. Winters as well. And I think Bethune's still got work to do as a coverage player, but his ability to trigger and bring down the ball carrier is really impressive. I honestly can't wait to watch year 2 Tatum Bethune in the preseason. I think he's going to ball out. He'll probably be the backup Mike linebacker. Maybe we'll be calling the plays when you get to the second half of preseason games. And I'm excited to see what he can do in year number 2. At number 42, I'm going with safety Richie Grant, the new free agent addition. Grant spent his first 4 years in Atlanta, where he started nearly every game for 2 years. Grant's biggest strength has been his availability. He played 100% of defensive snaps in his second season, and he's only missed 1 game in his entire career. In his 2 years as a starter, Grant was definitely a better run defender than a coverage guy, but he embraced his special teams role once the Falcons brought in Justin Simmons last year, and ideally that's the role he'll be playing for the 49ers this year. Number 41 is here, and sound the alarms, folks. Kicker alert. We got our second kicker of the series here at 41. It's Greg Joseph. Now, as you may have noticed, I have Jake Moody at number 60, and I have Greg Joseph at number 41, which means I think Greg Joseph is a better kicker than Jake Moody. That is true. I do think that. However, that doesn't mean that Joseph is exactly excellent. He's hovered around 80% on his field goals the past couple years, which is not particularly a good number. Fun fact about Joseph, he's from South Africa, and he spent most of his career with the Vikings. But last year, he played for 3 teams, the Giants, Commanders, and Jets. He's become a journeyman kicker pretty quickly, and he needs to really deliver if he wants to fully push Jake Moody out of San Francisco. It'll be an uphill climb for Greg Joseph, but considering he was a little bit familiar with Brant Boyer from his couple games he played with the Jets, I'm curious to see if he actually will. Our last player of the day, number 40, is rookie linebacker Nick Martin. Now, Martin's a very interesting player as a 3rd-round pick for this team. He's undersized, and he's not great in coverage, at least not technically, but he's a ridiculous speeding bullet, and he is so violent. The blueprint for Nick Martin is former Robert Saleh protege Quincy Williams. Williams and Martin have about the same athletic profile, and Saleh was able to develop this relatively unknown guy, Quincy Williams, into an all-pro caliber player. If he can do the same for Nick Martin, the Niners will have their next great linebacker. But Martin's got a lot of work to do to get there, and that begins this summer with the competition to start at linebacker. He didn't play on Wednesday's practice with the first team, but one practice hardly means anything in the grand scheme of things. We'll see how far Martin can get this training camp. So that is it for the rankings today. Let me know if you think I'm too high or too low on any of these guys. Any guys today that you think are going to end up starting for this team? And what was your main takeaway from training camp on Wednesday? Let me know down below if you enjoyed this episode. Leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know if there's any topics you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas, at Grustas Brady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you tomorrow.